All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for coming back. We have a presentation with Jessica Raleigh from the Also Highway Safety Planning and Patrick Bowman with the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute. It'll run from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Jessica is the Traffic Records Program Coordinator for the Also Highway Safety Planning, where she manages traffic data requests. $5 million in federal grants and works with other traffic safety partners to make Michigan roadways safer. Jessica has worked for the state of Michigan for 10 years and brings a diverse background of experience into her current position, including social work, fiscal business analyst, data warehouse coordinator, and a field agent before landing in her role at the Michigan State Police. Patrick Bowman is a statistician working for the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute. He works on data best practices and performs data analysis for state and national transportation studies for the Center for the Management of Information for Safe and Sustainable Transportation. Mr. Bowman is a consultant for the Michigan Also Highway Safety Planning and works on the Michigan Traffic Crash website, which presents detailed information on Michigan's year-end crash data. So welcome. Thank you again for you guys helping us out. You guys have helped us out in the past too, so we really appreciate it. But I'll turn it over to you, Jessica.
Wonderful, thank you. Patrick and I are both excited to be presenting today. It's a little weird doing these presentations. The last time we got to present to your group, it was in Flint. It was very interactive because we could see faces and people could ask questions. So it's always fun to gauge if you guys are yawning or I'm putting you to sleep. You just don't know in this virtual world. But I'm going to go through just a couple quick slides, and we hope to spend the majority of the time with Patrick in the actual Michigan Traffic Crash Facts Query tool, so we can show you some resources you guys can all hopefully use in your day-to-day jobs. A couple learning objectives. We're hoping you can gain a couple tips on successful partnerships, see some outcomes of our office and UMTRI's 27-year partnership, feel empowered to make some first steps to reach out and see some examples of data and takeaways. Just a little background information. If you haven't worked with either one of our offices before, the mission statement of our office is to save lives, reduce injuries on Michigan roads through leadership, innovation, facilitation, and program support in partnership with other public and private organizations. In our office, we have grant programs with motorcycle, pedestrian, bicycle, traffic records, commercial motor vehicle, occupant protection, impaired driving, teens, seniors, distracted enforcement, and an Upper Peninsula coordinator. At the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute, their mission statement is to educate, advance, develop, and elevate through safety, sustainability, and transportation. UMTRI does Michigan Traffic Crash Facts for us, analysis reports, and supports our office as well as our traffic safety partners. A couple tips we like to share is when you're looking to partner with people, which I'm sure your coalition knows, I've seen some of the other presentations coming through, it's important to have that long-term shared purpose. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? As you can see, our mission statements do align pretty well. And I think that it's important to work with people because of these things, not because a manager or somebody else tells you to, or it's not a good fit. Communication, one of my favorite quotes about communication is the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it took place, from George Bernard Shaw. So it is important to do it often, do it with purpose. Patrick and I think we talk daily, which is good, and make sure that you are able to measure and evaluate, clear goals at the beginning, check in along the way, and if we've learned anything in 2020, it's to continue being flexible when your circumstances change. Some of the impacts, just high level, we use in marketing, journalism, safety advocacy groups, engineers, legislators. These are just a couple places that our relationship has bled over. This is our website, which Patrick will be showing. If anybody has interest, Patrick always encourages people to follow along if you can. It's michigantrafficcrashfacts.org. It started 27 years ago as a paper booklet and has evolved into a website. It is funded by our office. Some of the things it can be used for, as we discussed in the last slide, is our grants, enforcement data, social media news, local agencies. The thing we like to point out that it can't do, and we only say it can't do one thing, it's a closed data set, so we are 1 year behind. So currently we have 2019's data loaded into Michigan Traffic Crash Facts. These are a couple screen grabs that I pulled from our Twitter account of ways we've used this site to highlight data, and you can see we have beautiful visualizations in there which make it easy to use. We have these great one-page fact sheets and publication that, again, you don't need to be a data wizard to pull these out, use these with the group. These are updated yearly, so this is a cell phone as well as an alcohol fact sheet. One of my favorite things in the website is our crash density maps. These really help with the local areas that are trying to plan and see that maybe overall you're not a Wayne County, so you don't have the majority of the traffic deaths. But here, as you can see, the drugs pull up here in Schoolcraft. That's a high percentage of crashes that are involving drugs. So as a local agency using these maps, it really stands out where you might have a problem. Right now, the past 2 years, Patrick has worked with our pedestrian and bicycle coordinator. This is just another project I like to highlight. They do data, about 23-page PDFs of broken out data to help their law enforcement agencies do more targeted and very, so they go out with a purpose. We know right now there's not as many people working in the field. The world has a lot of competing priorities. So this has really helped, and it's another way that our partnership with UMTRI has really helped us focus and helped our grantees. So now I'm gonna let Patrick, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and let Patrick take over and give everyone a live demo. Our contact info is here. I'm also going to share this with Mike afterwards so he can send it out. And please feel free throughout this, if you guys do have questions in the chat box, we can get to them after Patrick does his demonstration.
Okay, there we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. As Jessica said, I'm Patrick Bowman, and this is www.michigantrafficcrashfacts.org. So it's a website that we host for the Office of Highway Safety Planning, and it's available to the public. And in fact, it's actually mobile friendly, so you can get on with your phone or your tablet as well. But there are two sections to the site. We have this reports and fact sheet section. And I'll just click on this. We're working on 2019 data right now because we just received the data a few months back. So I'm going to go ahead. Well, and actually we have a lot of the 2019 publications available. And alcohol is on here. So I'll highlight one of them. So we have a bunch of these, and they vary. This one's statewide. We also have specific publications geared toward the Upper Peninsula and counties and communities around the state of Michigan. But this highlights ages and all crashes, fatal crashes, and injury crashes. And these publications go on and on. Here's some pie charts. And so there's graphs and tables, useful information that we think that law enforcement or the public might be interested in, or engineers, safety professionals. Let me show. Some more. Okay, so We also have at a glance because it's just a bunch of highlights for that specific year. These publications actually date back to 1952. So if I click on 1952, we added these a few years back, the older publications, and we just have the single full report. But I think this one says, yeah, 1952 is like looking ahead to 1953. And these are actually called accident facts. So you'll see the word accidents everywhere, and we don't tend to use accident anymore. But these are kind of useful too if you want some static information from 1952, I guess. I'm going to go back to 2018 where everything is available. So like I said, we're still working on 2019. Within the next month, everything should be posted. Next, I'm going to show some fact sheets. So Jessica actually highlighted these a little bit. So the fact sheets are just 1 or 2 pages. I believe the alcohol is 2 pages because we have more information. But we just pull out specific bullet points each year that we think might be useful to people. And a lot of the times, the press use these fact sheets as well. And you can see this is a graphic. So the percentage killed and had been drinking crashes, and it's a beer mug. So just kind of a neat way to illustrate alcohol crashes. The county community documents, like I mentioned, have specific information for, again, I'm going to highlight a lot of the drinking and the drugs and the young driver information, but all of the counties around Michigan. And it also has, these go on and on too, because they have a breakdown. There we go. So this is Branch County, and then all of the cities and townships within the county. And here we have the counts of crashes, fatal crashes, injury crashes, property damage, people killed, people injured, for all of those areas. All of the Upper Peninsula reports are just like the statewide reports. So I'm not going to click on any of those right now. We also have profiles that are specific to either counties, Michigan State Police districts or posts, MDOT regions, which are specific MDOT regions around the state, traffic safety networks, and I'll just highlight one of the county profiles. Oh, and of course we have some statewide profiles as well. So these actually are available for 2019 data, but I'm still in 2018 right now. But here we have a map of Wayne County, and it shows the fatal crashes and suspected serious injury crashes. And we have information on specific driver statistics and the vehicles in crashes, crashes by month, day of the week. And again, there are bar charts here that go along with all of these. I'm not going to go through this whole document because it's pretty long. Here's specific city and township within Wayne County data for those areas. And there's some alcohol and drug graphs near the end here. Well, used to be the end. We expand these all the time based on requests. And then there's a Google map of pinpoint alcohol-involved crashes in Wayne County. So 58 fatal alcohol-involved crashes in Wayne County in 2018. We have an action team section. And each of the action teams are focused on something different related to driver behavior or specific groups such as pedestrian and bicycle safety. So if I click on that, it'll jump right down to that section. And here we've pulled out, we have a link to their action team homepage. We've pulled out all of the useful documents that we think within, our 20-page documents, we'll just pull out one page that we think might be useful to them. And we also have some additional trend tables in here as well that provide useful information to them. The crash density maps, which Jeff also mentioned. And I'll click on the drug one for now. And so there's a little blurb that explains what they are, but the darker areas represent a higher proportion of those crashes, the drug crashes in this case. So Alpena and Benzie counties are darker. And we also have the tables that go along with those those maps, and we have fatalities, drug and alcohol fatalities, suspected serious injuries, and then fatalities and suspected serious injuries. The last area of the publication side, the website, is this historical perspective. And here we have data that actually goes back to 1915. But this is just a snapshot. So this is motor vehicle fatalities from 1915 all the way to 2019 now. And we have population, registered vehicle information, DMT, crash rate, fatality rate, injury rate, and averages. And some of these, yeah, there's breakdowns in here as well. So there's kind of neat ways to display it. I believe some of these are interactive as well. So if you want to remove specific bars and just look at the line, you can play around with these a little bit. But the real interactive part of the website is the data query tool. So if I click on query tool up here, this is the part of the website that is the most interesting to show. So we have the 2019 data available here, and like Jessica said, it's a closed snapshot for the year, so it's not live data. We don't have 2020 data. And here it says 314,376 crashes for the entire state for 2019. So as I click through here, you can change the analysis level. So right now we're on crashes, so it's one result per crash. But you can change it to units, which will be a result per vehicle, driver, pedestrian, bicyclist, or train engineer. And you'll see that the count will update to show the number of units in the crashes. So we're still on all the crashes in the state of Michigan for 2019. And if I click people, we're still on all the crashes, but you see the number of people, 634,622 people in crashes in 2019. And so that's one result per person, occupants in the vehicles, or again, a bicyclist or pedestrian. We can also change the time frame. So if I just stay on people, here we have data that goes back to 2004. So we could technically select all of it if we want to. And this number will, it'll say calculating because I've selected so many years of data at once, but it'll update with the total, hopefully. There we go, yeah, I give it a big query. So all of the people and all of the crashes in all the years, and you can see that the query updates here with the text as well. And we can share these queries too. So it'll provide a link, and you can just copy that link and open it in a new tab, or email it to a coworker. I use it a lot of the time when people ask for queries. I actually owe someone a query right now, and you can just email them the link. That's really helpful. So I'm not going to select all the years of data. I'm just going to go with 5 years. It's much quicker. And you can also select a specific date range. So if you're interested in a holiday weekend, for example, that's when this is pretty useful. I'm going to stay on 5 years of data. So all the people in those crashes in 5 years. The next area is a geographic location. So here you can filter. Right now we're on the entire state. Oh, and as I scroll on this page, you'll see that the count stays with me. So it stays on your screen the whole time. And I'll show you what we can do with these results in a minute. But right now, for the geographic selection, you can do the entire state, the lower or upper peninsula. So if you're just interested in a specific area of Michigan, you can do intersection. So here you can select a specific intersection on a map. We can do road segments. So if there's specific segments on the roadway that you're interested in, a lot of the times engineers use the road segment, and it can be pretty useful. There's mile markers, so you can select a specific highway, say I-75, and select a starting point and ending point on I-75. And if I click use these markers, it'll update my count. So 182 people in 103 crashes over 5 years in Michigan on I-75 from mile marker 1 to 4. So I guess it gets complicated, all the words. But it'll show you all that right here. You can select on a map area, and we use Google Maps, so it's pretty easy to use. So it will zoom in on a specific area in Michigan if you're in Michigan, but I technically live in Toledo, so I'm outside of Michigan. So it conveniently shows me the entire state for this presentation. But it's nice if you're actually, say, from Midland and you're focused on Midland, it'll zoom into the area where you're at. And it'll open on something like this. But if I'm interested in Midland, and I know I want a rectangular area or a circular area, I'm going to select circular area because I'm interested in this area. And I can move this circle. But it'll show 68 people and 35 crashes within that area. And I can also jump to the map output, but I'll get to that in a minute. You can also search for location. So if I search for lapels, flowers, and gifts, hopefully it would pop me right to this area. I'm going to return to this query editor to show you the other geographic areas. We also have counties. So if you want Alcona County. It also, our website suggests the publications that I already showed you. So here it pops up and says, hey, you might want to look at these profiles, which could be useful to people. So 3,706 people in Alcona County in 5 years, 2015 to 19. You can select specific cities or townships. So I'm from Ida Township, it's a small little town. 622 people. But we have all of the cities and townships around the state. Crashes near me will use within your location. And again, like the profiles, we have MSP, districts, posts, MDOT regions, MPOs. Oh, that's prior. Here are the current MPOs. And traffic safety networks. So we have all of these different areas. And again, it'll pop up and suggest those profiles. So I'm going to select the entire state for now, just so we have more to play with. And then the filters area. So this section has all the field, well, most of the fields on the UD10, which is our crash report. So everything that the police officers fill out is located here within the filters. So if you're interested in, you know, was there construction activity? What was the contributing circumstance? Maybe you want to know the day or month specifically. So if I click crash month, and I know I only want to look at crashes from 2015 to 19 in February, I just click on February and I click apply filter, and again, it'll update my count. So all of those people in the crashes in over 5 years in February. You could also say, I want to do January through March, and you can select multiple months and it'll update the count. You can also clear or delete these filters and it'll reset to the entire state in this case. Some other useful filters, there's drinking crashes. So if I select drinking involved and click apply, I'll get 92,645 people in those 5 years of data in crashes in Michigan. We have drug use crashes, emergency vehicle, et cetera. This goes on pretty long. It's an extensive list. Time of day, roadway conditions. And this blue or gray area, if you can see the difference here, these are the unit level or vehicle level variables. So we have like CDL specific or driver condition, was the driver asleep, or BAC level, driver drinking. So driver drinking in this case is a little bit different because it's just at the driver level instead of the crash level. And this list goes on. And then at the very bottom here we have person specific, so person age, person gender, person restraint. Excuse me. So you can actually see if there's no belts available in that car, 1,927. After you're done building your query and going through this list of filters, we have a bunch of outputs. So I'm actually going to filter on drinking involved fatal crashes. And there's a crash filter right here, crash, fatal crash, just to reduce my query a little bit. So now I'm just looking specifically at fatal crashes from 2015 to 2019 that involve drinking. If I click on View Chart, we can view other different filters as a pie chart, a bar chart, line graph, or timeline. So if I'm interested in a breakdown by year, a lot of people ask for 5 years of data. And again, this pie, it looks pretty even because the crashes are evenly distributed over the years pretty much. But say you want to pop out 2015 because you think it's, just a higher, 21.22 is a little bit higher than the rest of these. You can pop that out, you can spin this. You can download it, and you can download it as a PDF as well, instead of just an image. Or people can embed it on a website. If I don't want to look at this by year, I can maybe view it as a bar chart instead. Maybe this is more informative, and do a breakdown by year. I'm just going to click pedestrian. So the green bars are no pedestrian involved crashes, and the blue bars are pedestrian involved. So there's actually a bunch of pedestrian crashes involving alcohol, fatal crashes involving alcohol. And again, these are also interactive, like the other area of the website. Oh, and you can do stacked instead of side by side. So there's interactive features here too that are kind of nice, are fun to play with. We have a line graph. So again, a similar idea. And if you hover over, the bars too, you can see the counts, which is actually informative. And then we have the timeline. So the timeline is a little bit different because it shows, of course, over time, the number of crashes. See, there's a big peak here. And if I click, or if I just hover over it, I can see a 41. Maybe I'm just interested in this area. So then if I click that area, it'll zoom in. And then I can scroll over time. And what I could actually do is pin this. So if I select pin mode, and I want to pin just this peak. Okay, so I've pinned it, and I can now grab that peak and compare it to other dates. So you see all the dates here along the bottom. And again, I still have 5 years of data, so now I'm into 2019. So just that one big peak. So that's kind of neat. Wonder what that day was. Something in March. The other ways to do this, so we can look at tables instead of charts if we want. So these are really useful. I use these a lot actually for doing data in Excel. So I tend to do trends by year. So if I, for this row variable, I'm selecting month, and then for the column variable, I'm selecting crash year. And you can actually add more rows. So for now, I'm just going to do year by month. So again, now you can see by year the actual counts and the months here. And if I want to sort this, I can. So now I see that of the totals, April has the highest, and then August, May. So that's kind of useful too. And then if you're interested in sorting on a specific year, say 2018, August was the highest in 2018. And again, you can copy this, download it as a CSV or an Excel file or a PDF, or you can embed it on a website. So I use the Excel all the time, and it'll just download an Excel file. Next, we have lists. So you can actually download records only up to 90 at a time on a page, but you can select like crash latitude and longitude are the most commonly requested on this page. But you can, again, select crash year, say deer involved if you want, and you just click apply. You can select as many as you want. And it'll list the individual crashes here. And you can also click and view it on a map, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But again, you have the crash latitude and longitude, and you can download all of these here. And see you want to see the next page. So there's a total of 3,351, but our results only show 90 at a time. I'm going to, okay, I'm going to show calendar next, but I'm going to change my query just to mix it up. And I'm going to select, I'm going to delete fatal crashes and delete drinking involved and just show deer involved crashes because it's the most interesting to show on this next area, which is the calendar. Oh, and all of these results are on the side, but they're also up here at the top. That's what I was just clicking on. So every time you switch pages, they're always at the top. So I have deer crashes, and if I click, I can click one of these other years. And since it's a calendar, there's only 1 year at a time. But here you can see the darker areas represent more crashes, and the lighter have fewer. And if you click one of these, there's actually additional information. So it tells you the number of people in those crashes, and you can map it or chart it like I showed you. But I like to show deer because you can see in October and November the higher density of deer crashes, which is just kind of neat. It's kind of a neat pattern. Next is crash map. So it'll show all of the deer crashes in this case. Okay, I can maximize my screen too. When I download something, it tends to be hard to go back while I'm presenting in full screen. So it shows a heat map of all of these crashes, the 282,745 crashes over the state of Michigan, and here's the legend. And again, we're on deer crashes, so you don't see the high density in Detroit like you normally would for crashes. Actually, a lot in Lansing. But the closer in you zoom, you will eventually get points. So it'll readjust as you zoom in. So the heat map will change, and then you see the legend changes as well. If I get in far enough, there we go. So a lot of crash points because I have a lot of crashes selected right now. But if I'm interested in this specific crash, I talked about road segments. This is actually highlighting this road segment here. I click on one of these. Yeah, this is this road segment. And then it'll tell you specific HPMS data about the specific road segment, along with, let me select a different one, it's kind of overlapping. Along with the specific crash ID and the date and time of day, vehicle, people involved, and then, oh, this is a no injury crash, but you can also download the crash report. I'm going to go back here and click Street View. So this could be useful because, say you want to know, oh, there's a street light right here, so it wasn't, dark, or maybe the street light was broken, and that's why you want to know. So this is just, again, Google Maps. But I found that useful too. Oh, and you can highlight these. So if you want to show, I'm on deer crashes, so they're going to be low injury probably. Yeah, these are all no injury. That's what this orange is. But if you were on, say, alcohol involved crashes, you would not see no injury only. Oh, there's a red one right here. So that's a possible injury. Yeah, the deer crashes tend to be lower injury. Oh, this one's on the highway, so there's B injuries. And say I don't want to look at the no injuries, I can deselect those, so I can just pinpoint this B level injury. And again, I can zoom out and try to keep doing this, but at some point it'll go back to the heat map and not the point. I'm going to edit my query again. Let's see, what did I want to show? I want to show, oh, I'm going to go to, this time I'm actually, so you can reset your entire query. Sometimes if I have too many filters selected, I just want to start over. And you can click that, and it'll ask if you want to make sure you want to reset all of your filters, which I do. And now I'm back to crashes. So I'm going to select crashes instead of people. And I want to do, actually city, township, and I'm just going to do Detroit. Okay, 24,930 crashes. That's reasonable. And I'm going to select pedestrian because there are a lot of pedestrian crashes in Detroit. 524 crashes just in 2019 now. And I am going to go ahead and select 5 years of data again. So the next area is this I skipped ahead of myself. So I'm going to come right back to those maps in a minute. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to skip around a little bit and show you this, this location sorting. So you can actually select pedestrian within here, or you can select drinking pedestrians from here. But I'm not going to filter on anything. I'm going to do the top 10 intersections. But you can also do county, cities, road segments, but I have Detroit selected, so I just want to do intersections. And I'm just going to sort by count. If you select something within here, you can do it by percentage as well. So you could do the percentage of drinking pedestrian crashes, but I'm just going to keep it on count. So I click sort selected location. Now in Detroit, we have sorted on the top 10, in this case, intersections. So this is where the pedestrian crashes are occurring most frequently in those 5 years of data. And you can see there's 8 crashes at this intersection. So this might be, you know, an intersection that someone might be interested in taking a look at. You can view this as a heat map too, so you can see there's a couple intersections in this area. And this is darker too, so there's a couple right here bunched together. And if you say you select 20, that could be useful too, that heat map. But if I want to click on East 7 Mile Road and Van Dyke Street, it'll zoom right to that area. And again, it has the segment selected for that intersection. And so maybe Captain Jay's is problematic, and there are a lot of pedestrians walking out of that restaurant into the roadway or something. But it's just kind of neat to show. Pedestrian is a great example. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Since I skipped an area, I'm going to reset my query again. And this time I want the entire state, and I'm just going to select on drinking crashes. And I'm going to apply the drinking crash filter. So 9,787 crashes statewide. Okay, this will make more sense now. So if I go back to the county map, this is similar to the idea of the publication. So the darker areas have a higher density. And the reason I didn't want to show you this before is because I only had Detroit selected, so you'd only see Wayne County, and the rest of the map would be white because there'd be no crashes. But here's the key, so you can see the highest, and they also have the counts. And if you hover over, you can see the specific count. So it's a 70, but it also just makes it larger for you. And here you can select, say you want bicyclist crashes within the drinking involved. So these counts are much smaller, but again, you see the darker areas: Kent County, Grand Rapids, Wayne County, Oakland and Macomb, St. Clair. Oh, Grand Traverse, though, that's kind of interesting. I guess that makes sense. Especially since we're on drinking bicyclists. Actually, that makes a lot of sense in Traverse City. And again, here you can do it as a percentage or as a rate with licensed drivers or VMT. Oh yeah, we just got VMT last week for 2019. That's why it's not showing up. And that's going to be uploaded to our website soon, but I'll do licensed driver. There we go. Yeah, that's all our exposure data comes in a little bit later than our crash data even each year, but we upload it as we get it. So I just did percentages. So this is like proportions. So Alpena actually has a higher proportion of drinking bicycle crashes. And again, Traverse City is higher. And these percentages are just 3.23, so very low. But now you can see a different pattern because it's actually not Grand Rapids and Wayne and Oakland and Macomb that have the darker areas. It's St. Clair. Well, St. Clair was there before, but Alpena and Montgomery you know, these other areas are a little bit different. And you can see all the zero proportions. So it's the proportion of drinking bicycles crashes. So that's kind of an involved query, but it's just kind of neat to show that the rates change when you do the proportion out of all the crashes. I'm still pretty good on time, I think, but I want to leave time for questions. So I've already shown sorting because I skipped around a little bit. The other area is crash reports. You can actually download all of the UD10s. And there were a couple links that I avoided specifically so I could show you this, but I'm going to narrow down this query just so I can download some, because if you have too many at once, it won't let you download them all just because it's such a big file. Okay, so let's try the first day of the month. It's still a lot, but if I just select, oh, we only have 2019 right now. And head-on crashes on the first of the month. Okay, 20, that works. So going back to crash report, you can see the UD10 list, and this will take you back to that list mode. So if you want the specific UD10s, you can download them individually here, or you can do the bulk download back to where I was. So it takes a minute to retrieve all the UD10s, and then it'll download them in just a minute. But I'm going to have to exit full screen. There we go. Okay. So pretty quick, not too bad. So if I just click on one of these, cross my fingers that it works. There we go. Okay. So here is the actual crash report. So this is really useful to police officers a lot of the time because they can narrow down their query. Say that we're interested in, you know, those bicycle crashes or pedestrian crashes that I had selected in Detroit. And they want to look at just those 8 crashes at that intersection. They can look and see the specifics on the UD10, and you can see the road name and all of the information here that you can actually filter on the query tool, but it's redacted to remove the information specific about the driver, like their name and their address and their license number, insurance company. But if you go all the way, well, and it has individual units. So this is the second unit here, and this is a fatal. But if we scroll all the way to the bottom, it shows a crash diagram. And it also, this is not a great example. Actually, this is a really good example because this police officer was thorough. I'm just not going to read all this to you. But there we go. But you can see from the diagram right here what happened. I had selected on head-on crashes on the first day of the month of all the months, and it's like 20. But this person went over the center line and they hit head-on, and they actually killed the person in vehicle too. But this is a really good crash diagram too. They're not always the best, but now they're digital. So I'm only in 2019, and a lot of our reports now are electronic, so a lot of them are going to look good like this. But the older ones, they actually have drawn them in, but still useful. And again, this is really very thorough, I can tell. They have road names listed here too. Driving recklessly, transported. Yeah, so we've actually used these for projects before because we find the narratives have a lot of useful information that might not necessarily be within the data set itself. I have just a couple more things to show, and then we can take some questions. So if you think that this is all overwhelming and it's too much, and a lot of people do, it's fine, you can shoot us an email, and I can just share my queries with you. So you want the specific query, and I can copy and paste it directly into an email and send it right to you. Or you can click on the simple queries section at the top. And we're also open to adding to the simple queries. So if you have a suggestion or you use a query every single year, we can put it here for you. I just added young driver and senior drivers, so I'm working on those sections. But within these sections, there's these pre-built queries, and all you have to do is click the drop-down. So if you want all crashes in 2019 where there's backing crashes, you just select Go, and it'll automatically update the query. So then from there, you can just go and build a chart. Oh, crash day. So that's pretty evenly distributed too. But again, you can bot some of these out, put them in presentations. But the simple queries just gives, you know, it's a simpler way to look at things. And there's an impaired driving section here as well. So there's alcohol and drug information. And again, a young driver area. And I only have one query right now because I just started it. But if you have suggestions on anything that you would like added, just let me know, shoot me an email. There's a bunch of help documents here as well. So there's a commonly used query page, which is similar to a lot of these simple queries, but it's in a PDF format. And in 2016, we had some data changes, and that just explains that there's video tutorials. So we recorded a bunch of YouTube videos and in my public radio voice. So all of these videos, you can go, if you want to know, I skipped over some of these, like road segments. You can just watch this. Actually, this is a bounding box road segment selection, and you can play that, and it'll show you exactly how to select road segments. Oh, here's another road. There's a few on road segments because it's pretty complicated. There's also an entire webinar. So like the presentation I just talked through, we every now and then we'll do a webinar, and that's one of the webinars that I recorded that was probably well over an hour. So I went through everything in the webinar. Here's more helpful information about road segments and framework data, which is the Michigan Geographic Roadway, and mile markers, because when we added those to the geographic location, we just wanted to provide some additional information along with sorting. There was an alcohol and drug data fix in 2016, and then there's some more geographic regions. If you want to read any of those documents, feel free. Lastly, we have all of our resources here. So Michigan State Police, you can actually see the crash report manuals, as well as the other states in our NHTSA region. So if you find any of this information useful, you can look at all of how the police code things here. And we have a contact us. So if you want to give this a call, Jessica won't answer right now because she's at home, but when she gets back in the office, I'm sure she'll be happy to return your calls. And if anybody wants any specific queries or they have specific questions, I can take those questions now.
Well, thank you, Jessica and Patrick. What questions do we have? You got something, Jessica?
Oh, I think Patrick, Barry had one in there asking about delivery drivers, if there's a filter. You're on mute, Patrick.
Sorry about that. I was taking a drink and I didn't want you to hear me. So I was saying that's a really good question, and I don't think we have data specific to delivery drivers. But there is a vehicle type filter. Let me just click it. So you can see, oh yeah, I had that selected. So you can see heavy trucks on here. So if it was like a UPS truck or something, there's truck bus over 10,000 pounds, so there'll be any of the heavier trucks. So that would narrow it down. But I don't think we have, there's also vehicle use. So this, again, we have emergency, but no specific, like, oh, gas cable or road construction maintenance, but delivery driver if you wanted like UPS or FedEx or something. I'm not sure how you do that unless you went in and looked at narratives, which would be a lot, like 15,000 narratives is a lot. But other than that, I don't know a way to pull up that specific vehicle.
Marianne asked, if you are looking for specific information and are having trouble figuring out how to find it even after looking at tutorials, is there someone you can reach out to directly? Oh, never mind. I always reach out to Patrick and Jessica. I told them before we started the webinar that I might be a little dense or something like that, but I have trouble with this. I mean, I'm convinced there's tons of information. I just don't know how to fully utilize it. And so oftentimes I will reach out to Jessica and Patrick, and I appreciate they're always willing to help me. Or people ask me, I usually reach out to them because I don't feel I know what I'm doing exactly. But one of the questions that I have is what I get a little confused on is, as an example, the drinking pedestrian crashes. So does that mean, I'm always concerned like what the definition is. Does that mean that either the pedestrian's been drinking or the driver? Or those kinds of questions are what I wonder about when filtering or using these things. Is there like a way to explain what these definitions are maybe, or?
Sure. So I did, but I glossed over it so fast. Yeah. And there is a lot here. So don't, I mean, anybody can feel free to ask any questions, or I can just send queries. But so there's crash drinking, which is what I was selecting most of the time. So that's any alcohol involvement in the crash. So 9,787. And then there's driver drinking, which I did click on once, but it's harder to talk about because if you click on driver drinking, it's only, so you're going to get the same count, but those, so if I select units, for example, I know it's hard to explain even, but those are the units where a driver was drinking. So you could have a pedestrian or a bicyclist or whatever. Now, if you go down to the party type and you select driver, those are the drivers drinking, those units. Excuse me. And if you click bicyclist, there are 33 drinking bicyclists. And it's actually drinking pedestrians is a big problem because they'll wander into the roadway, 209. So those are just the pedestrians who are drinking. But if I remove those, and you just have that's why it says crash drinking. It's just all drinking involvement in the crash. So that's all of the units in the crashes where there was at least one party that was drinking. So that's kind of the distinction between the two levels. So if you specifically wanted like drinking pedestrians, you'd want this party type. So you'd select on pedestrians or drivers if you just wanted the drivers. And you'd select driver drinking. And it says driver drinking, it means unit drinking. So technically, that's another complicated issue. So it says driver drinking, but a pedestrian is technically its own unit, so it's a driver in this case. So 209 pedestrians were drinking. Hopefully that helps a little bit. It's difficult to explain even at first.
What questions do people have? One quick question is, you mentioned a couple times that the set is a closed data set. Is there any way to make it like real-time data, or just the way just needs to be closed data?
So it's always going to be closed data, and actually Jessica is the person to contact if you need like 2020 data, for example, or you can. Actually, I think we're supposed to just direct people to you, right, Jessica? But the Criminal Justice Information Center at the Michigan State Police houses that data, and we're in touch with those people all the time. But all of those requests can go right through Jessica.
And again, I put it in the chat box, but we're always, available. It's actually, in some ways, made it easier for us to reach more people, to give them smaller group tutorials, because people don't have to worry about driving or travel or us traveling to them. So if anybody has smaller groups or people that want a tutorial where they feel comfortable, just asking if you're up north or you're in a certain area that you want to know about, I do always suggest to use those pre-canned data, especially the county profiles has so much information in it. But if you do have an area that you just want to know more about, what your teen drivers are doing or your teen pedestrians. I mean, we have ways within the tool to break things out by ages, month, area, time of day. So don't be shy. We wouldn't say it if we didn't mean it. So if you guys do want us to do something for a smaller group of people, we'll make sure that Mike has our information. If you use that link, I do try to check my voicemails when I can, but that email link will blind copy me as well. Patrick will get a copy, so feel free to use that micofinfo@universityofmichigan.edu as well.
I plan to take you up on that in the relative near future. So
Absolutely.
So can you just pull up a quick query? So again, just show us maybe drinking, driving rates over time and drug driving rates. And there's probably pre-existing things already on there. So I use a lot of your pre-existing reports and fact sheets and everything on the website already because that's easier. It's easier for me. And there's a lot of helpful stuff there. But can you just slowly query up, like, let's look at all the drunk driving crashes in Michigan the last 5 years, 10 years, and then look at drug driving if we can pull it up quickly, or maybe it's already existed.
Sure. So, excuse me, the first thing would be, there's a convenient 10-year button that's relatively new. It's great, especially for presentation. So 10 years of data, and you just select this crash drinking again, and select drinking involved and apply it. I already applied it. And then you can view all those 98,000 crashes. Let's see. By year. This is how I would do it. I don't know. And then you can actually, break it out more. So this is going to have injuries and crash even. So the green is fatal injuries. So the worst injury, so the green are fatal crashes technically. Get rid of no injury. There we go. So these are the different varying levels of injury, where K, A's, B's, and C's, so less severe. And that's just over time. And then if you wanted drugs, there's another convenient, so I use these a lot. All of these levels that say crash, like crash bicyclist, or crash steer, crash drug use, those are all at the crash level. So we just looked at all of the drinking crashes, and now these are all the drug crashes. So that's a good place to get started, are these crash filters, crash, fatal crash, because there's a lot of useful information just within those. School bus crashes, young driver. So 22,806. And you can do the same thing. You can view it over time. And since I already had this clicked, it'll do drug crashes over the same injuries. But you don't even have to do the side by side if you don't want to.
And then you can so line graph or bar graph or.
Sure. So if you just want to do.
And I can tell you, Mike, with the drug data, they are getting better at Criminal Justice Information Center at getting poly, drug use, getting more data sets in, because we all know that drug data, and it's the limitation of what the officers are given. And if there's alcohol involved, they usually test for that first because the laws are a lot clearer, but they are trying really hard to get more data for the drug involved crashes because we know we're not getting it all.
Okay, so the drunk driving crashes look like they're going up then, is that correct?
Yeah, and they're just, starting to get more, like, especially with the poly, we know a lot of the drug driving crashes don't just have one drug in their system. So that's the other thing that we're trying to do better at, or our state's trying to do better at. So we can look at is it especially being able, because we all know with marijuana legalization, more and more people are going to ask questions about the crashes, the data, and it's just not solid enough to do great reporting on that. So they are trying really hard to get better at that.
Gotcha.
And I just wanted to point out, there's also BAC results in here. So I just have a super drunk query, 0.17 and greater. And you can apply all those and see the super drunk crashes. You could actually just do, if you just wanted everyone to know everyone that had a 0.15, you know, so that's useful too.
Yeah, I think you helped with the query looking at, maybe we looked at 0.05 to 0.08, the crashes or something like that in that range, because you know, somebody had introduced a bill to lower the BAC to 0.05. It's been seen for a long time. And I'll share this information with you too. We did a small poll with Epic MRA, and they polled likely voters on the 0.05 BAC, and you're probably not surprised, but the support is pretty low right now. It's about 36% support, but I personally support that and hope to see in a number of years more states go to 0.05, and hopefully Michigan will be one of those at some point. But any last minute questions? We're at time, but anybody have any questions they want to get out? Again, to me, it's still, every time I look at it, I mean, there's tons of information on this. It's great that we have such good data. I'm just going to kind of keep working on trying to figure it out a little bit better to understand it, but I appreciate all the reports, all the fact sheets, all the information on there, and your guys' help. So you guys are always helpful when we have questions. But any questions, anyone? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll get this stuff posted and the slide decks out to folks after the conference is over.